Good evening. We are going to give a brief on complexities and strategies associated with procuring complex projects and programs. We shall start off this discussion with an introduction. Procuring complex projects can simply be defined as interorganizational arrangements that are divided into two majorly. We have a performance complexity and infrastructure complexity, at least according to two scholars, Lewis and Roherich, 2009. According to Caldwell and Howard, complex projects or procuring complex projects looks into the difficulties and complexities that come with managing and operating in settings with complex infrastructure and performance constraints. When we talk about performance complexity, it's majorly characterized with activities that require knowledge-intensive skills, whereas infrastructure complexity is characterized by a bespoke of hardware and software programs that may be required to accomplish a particular complex projects. We would like to dive into the complexities that are associated with the procurement of projects and programs. One of the complexities is stakeholders not being involved in the project. When procuring complex projects, stakeholders have to be part of those projects. If they're not part of the project, then a lot of problems are going to arise, and there will be limited success for such projects. A case in a point is during the rollout of COVID-19 vaccinations in sub-Saharan Africa, there was vaccination hesitancy, and this was majorly contributed by misinformation. People were not convinced enough of the origins of the vaccine, its efficacy and safety. And this was influenced by political influence, religious beliefs, and therefore the vaccine project faced less or little success.
Thank you. I'll move straight to the impact on environment and the natives. Despite the need for the projects, infrastructure and the public amenities to ease life, there's been destruction of natural resources, messing up of the biodiversity, ecosystem, among all. A taking example is the Bujagali hydropower project in Uganda. Its intent was to increase power supply and access to, of electricity for all, but you realize that humans got displaced and over 8,700 inhabitants as quoted in one of the articles among those who got affected by this project. And then there's also remoteness of some areas and low purchasing powers of the natives. This makes procuring of projects and programs complicated. When you look in Kakumba's article, despite Uganda supply electricity, which is being generated, some citizens in the extreme north and west are in hard to reach areas, which make it hard for the implementers hard to reach to their areas. So these people cannot access the electricity still, and some of the poor people's purchasing power is low, which makes it hard for it to serve the purpose. Over to you, Henry.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to give a brief discussion regarding the delays as one of the complexities. The complexities that have been experienced in the procurement of major projects in the country. This is often due to a number of factors, which include poor stakeholder management, corruption, hiked prices, and the costs of the project. A case in point is a stalling of the Bujagali Power Hydro Plant due to corruption of the stakeholders and the management. Then another one would be the shortage of funds during the implementation of a number of times, we know these projects require massive funding, which is not really available most times. So for such cases, the government of Uganda often goes for loans from the Chinese countries, even the banks, which come at an expense. Even the process it takes them to receive those loans is so high. Case in point, the construction of dams and also making the power supply accessible to all areas in the country. It also requires massive funding. So funding is a major complexity that has been experienced in the project. Over to you, Tarsis.
Thank you all. So again, these projects become complex. So it is because one of the other reasons is that they are expensive in nature. And when they're expensive in nature, they become also expensive for governments. That means when governments want to undertake such kinds of projects, they have to be mindful of the debt burden. And this debt burden has become a characteristic of these projects. So when there is a lot of debt burden that is expected from such a project, it becomes complex. Secondly, people lose interest in such a projects because there is a huge tax burden on them because of these kinds of projects. So it becomes complex because of its nature of being expensive and its nature of pushing a national debt on governments that undertake such particular complex projects. Having seen the complexities that are associated with procuring such complex programs and projects, we would therefore like to as well give remedy or strategies to manage the complexities in sourcing and implementing complex projects. These strategies are aimed at maximizing stakeholder value to make sure that both the government and the private sector involved in such projects can actually maximize stakeholder value. Miriam can take us through some of the strategies as we move forward.
Thank you so much, Tarsis and Henry, for that discussion. I'll go straight to one of the strategies I feel fit to solve the complexities in sourcing the programs and projects. Let's look at adopting competitive dialogue. In this case, it will involve this involves several discussions with all the stakeholders involved. These are the contractors and the potential suppliers. This will help through the entire procurement process. This will help make sure the technical specifications are well designed and also prices are predetermined, not to get surprises ahead, which will slow projects and put holds and cause some delays. Yeah, so adopting competitive dialogue will really solve the complexities.
Okay, thank you. Another remedy to the challenges or the complexities that have been experienced before is the project awareness and education to all stakeholders, or in simple terms is the stakeholder engagement, which might include the government, the policy makers, health workers, the users, and all the other departments, the media along others. You have to ensure that all the stakeholders are engaged in the product to allow the smooth running and implementation of the project, even the acceptance of the project by the people or the users for smooth running. Case in point is the COVID-19 vaccine, which was rolled out, and because of the misinformation that was aired out to the public, a lot of resistance was experienced. But after some good information being passed on to the users or the stakeholders, a good number of people turned up for the vaccination, which is a positive in the process. Then the other remedy we had is the benchmarking on the previous projects. If you look at, say, case in point is the Ujagari hydropower plant, they had to benchmark on how the Kira power plant was constructed to find out which way to take so that we can avoid most of the challenges that were experienced before. This gives us a smooth ride and a smooth implementation of the project, in that you have to know that some people might have to be relocated to some other locations or compensated in a certain way so that there's no pulling ropes and friction between the implementers, the funders, even the government, or even the contractors in the project. The third one is improving the infrastructure of the remote areas, which allows access, improved access to the power supply. The case in point is this can be done through improvement of infrastructure such as roads, making the remote areas accessible. It also makes it easier for other utilities or benefits of the project reach them first and in a better or in an easier way, so that they can all benefit from the project. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Henry, for that. I'll also want to cite that adopting local content in procurement of these projects and programs will solve a lot of complexities. When I'm talking of the local content, I'm looking at involving of the local natives in the procurement process by giving them jobs, building their capacity to understand the projects more. This will make them appreciate the project more and support and avoid some resistances which slow the projects in some articles like mentioned. Then there's also a need to involve different specialists during the implementation of these projects. For example, the dams, I can cite again Bujagali Hydropower Dam. After construction of this dam, despite its need and its advantages which came with it, the critics came out to put up some things which were overseen, like messing up the biodiversity. So if government had first consulted them enough, perhaps some of those mishaps would have been dealt with before construction or along the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Therefore, in conclusion, we say, despite the complexities involved in procuring such complex projects and programs, there are numerous strategies that, when implemented and monitored, can result into profound success of complex projects. Thank you so much.